Okay, my softball years, I started when I got out of the service and had a new second baseman whose name was Chuck Meyer, and still had our old third baseman, Johnny Bender. But Chuck Meyer and I became very close friends. So close, he introduced me to his niece, and I dated her for a good while. I cared for her probably next to Mom. She was the last one, and but we met her at a basketball game. She was cheerleading, and that was kind of that. He introduced me to him, and we dated, and so there. That was that. But Chuck Meyer and I, we played ball together and really enjoyed each other, and just did things together, a lot of things together. Well, he started a college, and he started college and didn't think much about it, but then his first year college was okay. His second year was okay. Third year, he called and said, "Raleigh, get your butt up here and get your coaching degree, and I'll get a coaching job and take you as my assistant." So I said, okay. So I started at Baldwin Wallace. Well, in the meantime, I was the veteran in the place. The guys that made up the fraternity really had a club. They called it the Gentleman's Club, and I was voted to be president because all the guys there, I knew them well, and the ones that come in were freshman kids and didn't want to vote on them that were below me. So I ended up getting the presidency as my sophomore year, and think ahead of my junior year. But one of the real neat things about this was that, I never even thought of going to college because I didn't think I could afford it. Never entered my mind. But at any rate, for being president, I got my room free. And I had a good friend in the fraternity that enjoyed singing with me. We sang together all the time, and we did dishes together and sang in the meantime. And during all the time we did dishes, we looked forward to doing dishes. But we got that free. So I got both room and board free. Got 2 years, my sophomore and junior years. In the meantime, Chuck started at Mallet Creek here in York Township, and had a great basketball team and football team. And his first year, and I'm at BW. The second year, Chuck got leukemia and died halfway through the year. So there went my connection, there went Chuck, my good buddy. And so, at any rate, now I had a senior year to put into, which I didn't have much money now. Only the GI Bill, and I didn't have much otherwise. So what I did was transfer. I transferred my senior year in high school, lost a lot of good friends in the process. I had to transfer my senior high school and college because of financial conditions, and I lost a lot of good friends that way. But I also went to Kent State, and at Kent State I had to study like the devil to keep up with freshman kids who had chemistry in high school, and I didn't have chemistry, and I had to take it at Kent State, where I didn't have to take it at Baldwin Wallace. So anyhow, I'm studying like crazy for an exam, and these kids are way ahead of me. There's no way I can pass that test on that stuff, I thought. But I got so tired one Sunday of before the exams that I thought I'll go down to Newman Club, the Catholic Newman Club, and they were having spaghetti dinner, and I thought I'd have a spaghetti. So I went down, I was the last one in line. And taking tickets with this cute little gal. I really didn't think too much about that part of it till when I got my plate of spaghetti, I, being a gentleman, offered it to her because she got in behind me. She hadn't eaten yet either because she was taking tickets. So we sat down together, and she offered me her pie, and I knew this was the girl for me when she offered me her pie. Next morning, we had a date. I went out in the country to pick her up. She's from Brimfield. Met her mom in the morning before I even saw her. And her mom was making noodles. And just a great lady. And we went to church to do well on our exam. The priest was going to say a mass to help throw the hope that we would do well in our exams. And I'm telling you, his prayers must have worked, because I passed chemistry. I don't have any recollection or instinct of how in the world I ever passed chemistry. But I did. So there too. So that was the start, my connections with a girl named Rose Scarpolini. She's from an Italian family from Brimfield, and she had 9 brothers and sisters when I met her. And they were young enough that we could go out and party together, dance together. We even went to Chippewa Lake before it was broken down, and had fun out here at Chippewa Lake. We danced out here. We rode what do you call it? The roller coaster together. It wasn't much of a coaster, but it was a roller coaster anyhow. But we had a lot of good times like that together. And now, of course, I'm the only one left of the whole group. But at any rate, we had so many good times. We had dinner together almost every Sunday at the farm. Everybody brought stuff and we ate, and guys played poker, but I didn't. I couldn't afford to. I was the only one with a college education, and I couldn't afford to play poker with them. And one of the nice things they did, every pot they made, they put a quarter in it, in a kitty for Mom and Dad, Scarpolini, to help them with things. So that was really a nice gesture. And wasn't until long after we started pitching horseshoes there for a while, and I was getting pretty good at it. And once I got good at it, they took me down and got me to playing poker again. So at any rate, it was a lot of fun out there on farm. We had horseshoe pitching. We had nice meals. We had a lot of fun together down there. So, okay, where do I go from there? I guess the best way to tell you is that decided one day we'd get married. And so we did. On June the 12th, 1954. The year I came out of Brunswick and moved to Medina Schools. I moved the last day that you can move carefully and help the schools out. And Augie Rios, who was a basketball coach at Highland, he got the basketball coaching job at New Philadelphia, and he asked me if I'd come with him and be his assistant. So I took him up on it on the last day I could do that. And so that's the way I got to Medina, and that's the way I started with Augie coaching basketball. One of the good things about moving to Medina was Howard E. Claggett, the principal, and just a great guy, full of jokes and humor. Will Rogers jokes, those kind of jokes that he told, Mark Twain jokes. And we used to meet together every last period and talk over whatever. May have coffee and he'd have tea, and once in a while I'd have a tea with him, but we'd swap jokes. And we really enjoyed each other, and he was just a peach. I think he might have been a pretty tough customer as a teacher, but he's one of those guys that believes as a principal, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And now up at Brunswick, just the reverse was true. The principal up there used to read the manual to us every year, word for word, where Mr. Claggett said, now I think you people here all know how to read. You've had a college education. I'm sure you know how to read. So you read through this manual. If there's a part you don't understand, my door is open. You just come right in. And I don't need to go up and down to see whether you're a good teacher or not. I can tell just by walking up and down the halls. Now, one day he walked in my room, and everybody in my room had a fireball in their mouth, including me. And I said, Mr. Claggett, I think I can explain. He said, I think that would be nice. So I told him about George, who the day before had a fireball in his mouth, and I said, George, you have one for everybody? George said, no. I said, then you put that in a waste paper basket up here. When the next day he came in with a bag of jawbreakers, fireballs, had one for everybody, including me. I had one in my mouth along with every kid in the place. You know, Mr. Claggett said, where's mine? So that was him. Through and through, just a great guy, you know. I remember a joke he used to tell. He was master of ceremonies for at spring get-togethers for the coaches and band director and everybody. And the spring track coaches could make their drawings and so on for who's going to do what. But he used to tell stories too. Al Thomas, and some of you may remember Al Thomas, not very many of you probably, but Al Thomas was a sports writer for the Gazette. And I think he's the one that gave me the name of Raleigh, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember him introducing Al. He says, Al, I'll guarantee you one thing. You know a lot more than I do. You know me, and I know you. And that was one of his stories. In other words, stories he used to say, yeah, Medina's glad to have you people here, you know, and he says, we here at Medina like to have a school that our band will be proud of. So there too. But at any rate, he was such a great guy. I just enjoyed him so much. And Mom and I would go see him after a parade, after he retired. We walked down from the parade from the square, and we walked in on one time, and he had a couple of old maid school teachers from Brunswick. And my wife said, boy, Mr. Claggett, you're just as handsome as ever. And I think I have my story mixed up. It's the other way around. Mr. Claggett says, Rose just as beautiful as ever. And she went back, he kissed her on the cheek, or she kissed him on the cheek, and he said, "Of course, you know my eyesight's not as good as it used to be." So that took the air on her sails. But I sure enjoyed being at Medina. I coached basketball and assistant football, coached football, started out with Jim Kearns, who still comes to see me here in 1917. He and his wife still come to see me. He hobbles in here, he can just barely walk. He's got a walker, and he told his wife, "We're going to see Raleigh if I have to crawl on my hands and knees." That's about what he was, on his hands and knees, it seemed like. But just a great couple, and they had to move out of their comfy home because of his getting around with his steps and everything. So that was that. Okay. But I coached with Jim Kearns. His wife was Persis, and I coached with Bill Tibbetts, and his wife was Nancy, and they still call once in a while or send something, and we get together for a party or something, or the two of us, and sometimes just get together and have a nice party. But the four couples developed out of my moving into Medina was later on, was shortly after, rather, was Bob Peters and Dale Wyatt. We moved in together. So the first year I had the JVs, and Bob Peters had the varsity. And the second year, Dale Wyatt took over the JVs, and they talked me into being the athletic director. Now, I want you to know, as athletic director, Mr. Rios, Augie Rios, left me the athletic director files, which included one cardboard box with about 5 or 6 folders in it. You should see that office now. After I left, they grew like crazy, and now I think it takes 2 rooms for file cabinets and everything. So it is quite a change. So, you want to turn it off for a bit to see where I am here?